Guys, today full Calcharo theory crafting guide where I talk about his kit, best teammates, best builds and so on. Let's go. First of all, at a glance Calcharo might seem pretty easy to use, almost automatic I'd say, but he hides some gameplay techs that aren't trivial and can really elevate his overall performance. He's an Electro main DPS and is very similar to Jiyen in the sense that most of his damage is coming from when he's using his Resonance Liberation. When he's out of it, he's really not doing much, as his basic attacks, while flashy, are quite bad in terms of damage. A more important ability of his is the Resonance skill, which is a 3-part sword attack. Basically, it's an ability for which you have to use the Resonance skill button 3 times in order to fully execute it. It's a quite fundamental part of his rotations as it generates nice energy and also enables the Electro Echo set. That's because the Electro set requires you to use the skill multiple times in order to fully activate its effects, and Calcharo's does the job quite well. Moreover, Calcharo's skill hits will fuel his Forte bar, which in his case is called Cruelty. When the Cruelty bar is completely filled, he can use the Forte attack, Mercy. Mercy is a rather lengthy chain of attacks that, however, does nice damage and also activates Calcharo's first passive. This passive increases Calcharo's Liberation damage bonus, which will be very useful later in the rotation. But still, point stands that Mercy is a very slow ability to use. Luckily, Calcharo has a way to fix this issue. It's the gameplay tech I mentioned before. Calcharo can swap cancel during the execution of this ability. Basically, if you swap out while it's executing Mercy, the ability won't be cancelled, but you will be able to use another character in the meantime. This tech will be possible multiple times during Calcharo's rotation, and that's why it fits very well with characters that can deal some damage in a very short time frame. What follows is Calcharo's Resonance Liberation, the de facto main ability of his kit. When he uses this ability, his kit basically changes completely. His common basic attacks get replaced by a string of electric attacks that is just spectacular to see and is now very meaningful in terms of damage. These new normal attacks are considered Resonance Liberation damage, so pay attention to this. Additionally, his Cruelty Forte bar gets replaced by a new Forte bar called Killing Intent. The new bar won't get fueled by skill hits anymore, but rather by his new normal attacks. It takes 5 normal attacks to completely fuel Killing Intent, and after that, the next normal attack will be Death Messenger, which is basically an evolution of the Mercy attack I've shown before. This is Calcharo's strongest hit, but just like Mercy, it's quite slow. However, just like Mercy, it can be swap cancelled, and this is actually Calcharo's main strength. He's very much a quick swap character, in that he can swap in and out even during his liberation to allow other characters to take the field while he's using his lowest attacks. This, however, doesn't mean that you want to play Calcharo with another carry. You still want to play him with a character that doesn't take much field time. So hybrid characters like Mortefi, for example. Honestly, it's a very fun playstyle and a perfect way to play around Calcharo's weaknesses. However, it's also not very easy because you have to swap out exactly as Calcharo's initiates his Death Messenger attack. Then with the second character you stay on field for a second maximum and then back to Calcharo again. The windows are very tiny. If you mess it up, you will basically waste all of your rotation damage, while if you manage to pull it off, you will feel like you're playing 2 characters at the same time. Honestly, it's not a must, but if you do it, you will allow your Calcharo to take advantage of characters that work best when played this way. For example, Yinlin, that is coming out in just a few weeks. Back in beta, playing Yinlin and Calcharo this way made the best possible team for Calcharo. That's because Yinlin is a very potent damage dealer, and losing out on her short damage windows means losing out on her potential. Still, it's not like you have to play Calcharo this way. You can even play without ever swapping out. Not only it's much easier and less risky, but it also allows Calcharo to fully take advantage of outro skill effects that get removed if he swaps out, like for example the buffs from Jianqing. So if you don't want to do it, don't worry, it's not like you're losing on some essential tech, it has pros and cons. That said, Calcharo has some flaws that are worth mentioning. First of all, he's pretty much a perfect scenario character because of how his Death Messenger attack works. If you manage to use all the possible normal attacks during his liberation, he will be able to use 3 Death Messenger attacks in total. However, the problem here is that if you have to dodge during his rotations, which is very realistic, you won't be able to use enough normal attacks to use 3 Death Messengers. That means that in any scenario where you're facing opponents that you have to evade in order to survive, you won't be able to maximize his damage. And that's pretty bad, because that means that the harder the content becomes, the worse he's able to perform. Second, after using the liberation, his intro skill changes to some sort of ultimate attack. It looks pretty cool, but honestly that's the only good good thing I have to say about it. The reason is that it's very slow, because it basically has a resonance liberation animation and it doesn't freeze the game timer. That makes quick swapping with him even more risky, because if you proc the intro skill while the liberation is active, you'll lose 2 seconds of the liberation duration in total, which means bad DPS. And that's why while Calcharo might look like he is fun and easy to play, is actually the total opposite. It can be very frustrating. Anyway, regarding his skill levels, you want to prioritize the resonance liberation talent and the forte talent. That's basically where all of his damage output comes from, so level those up, and then if you really want the resonance skill talent. Let me remind you that if you enjoy my content but you haven't subbed yet, please consider doing so, because it really makes me notice your support. In terms of echo sets, there are two main options, the one that buffs electro damage and the lingering tunes that buffs attack percent. Both of these sets are pretty good for Calcharo, but part of their evaluations must be based on how good their main echo options are. For the electro set, there are a lot of options, and none of them is extremely good. In terms of damage buffs, the best one will be the Thundering Mephis that provides resonance liberation damage bonus and electro damage bonus, both things Calcharo likes. The issue with it is that it's really slow. It takes around 4 seconds to fully execute its attack, and it can't be cancelled. Truth be told, during those 4 seconds, the Thundering Mephis is dealing some nice damage, but honestly is low enough that it makes other options competitive. For example, the Tempest Mephis, while he has worse buffs since he provides heavy damage bonus that Calcharo doesn't really need, he has an animation that can be cancelled, so he's better in terms of animation time compared to the Thundering Mephis. Alternatively, there is the zero animation time echo, the Electro Predator. In fact, when summoned, it will just fight alongside Calcharo and not replace him, and shoot at the opponent. This for a total duration of 8 seconds, and the best part of it all is that his cooldown is also 8 seconds, which means that potentially during a rotation he can basically have no downtime. On the flip side, the Lingering Tune set has the Mech Abomination at its disposal. This big dude is easily one of the best main echoes in the game. That's because he basically requires zero animation time to be casted and also gives a 12% attack bonus to the main user. And on top of it, it deals nice damage. As a whole, the Electro set and the Lingering Tune set are pretty close. It depends on the case honestly, because for example, if you don't swap out, the Tune set can actually be better. That's because the way Tunes works, you keep getting attack percent stacks as long as you stay on field. If you go off field, then the effect gets reset. Meanwhile, the Electro set is more consistent and definitely the best option if you play quick swap Calcharo. In terms of stats, the first thing is that he needs around 30 to 40% energy regeneration to use the ultimate every rotation. You can get that through a 3-cost echo main stat, substats, or a weapon. That's your choice. For the echo main stats, it's pretty standard. It likes attack percent, electro damage bonus, and crit. You can also do something like using 2 4-cost echoes with a crit main stat and 3 1-cost echoes with an attack percent main stat. It's definitely an option, although considerably worse compared to the optimal ones. Substats wise, again, if you needed energy regeneration, then crit, then attack, and then resonance liberation damage. Now, for the other part of the character build, so the weapon selections, Calcharo is a pretty balanced character because he has no signature weapon. He has no weapon that is specifically designed to make him shine, so compared to somebody like Jian, his 5-star options don't absolutely destroy the 4-star ones. However, this is also kind of a con, because it means he doesn't have the same high investment upside. Shout out to Broadblade here, the craftable option that for a free-to-play weapon is dangerously close to the 5-star ones. It's pretty hit or miss because the attack buff it provides is tied to the current HP you have, so if you get hit at any time during your rotation you'll probably lose the buff, but it's still pretty good overall. Specifically, it gives energy regeneration and the Calcharo really needs it, so it's a good weapon. Alternatively, Autumn Trace, Helios, all pretty good options. Now, regarding his best teammates, just like I did for the GN guide yesterday, I calculated which supports in the game can increase his damage the most. Numerically speaking, Jianqin is the best partner for Calcharo in terms of damage. That's because her Atro skill gives resonance liberation damage deepen to the next character that switches in. Of course, that's the main source of Calcharo's damage, so it's very good. However, the issue is that if Calcharo switches out, this buff gets removed, and since he can be a pretty quick swappy character, this is not ideal. On the flip side, Virina doesn't have this issue because she provides attack percent buffs and damage deepen buffs to the whole team. These buffs don't get removed when the character switches out, so they're a perfect fit for a character like Calcharo. Not only that, but since Calcharo can be played with other DPS, the fact that you have in Virina a character that buffs the whole team is just very useful for the whole team damage. Other options will be Baiji that also provides damage deepen, or Yang Yang for the energy support. Overall, if you don't want to play quick swap Calcharo, I would say the best combination of teammates will be Virina and Jianqin. I think that's the best best combination in terms of damage. Meanwhile, if you want to play quick swap Calcharo, there are a lot of options really in terms of DPS, like Mortefi, Spectre MC, Havoc MC, and Core. I haven't done team calculations yet, but really any character that can deal some damage in a small window. Havoc characters are probably favorite of mine because they can hold Dreamless. Dreamless is a very strong echo because she can deal a lot of AoE damage and can also be cancelled in terms of animation, so any character that can magnify your damage is welcomed on Calcharo's team. But anyway, this is all until we get Yunlin, that should become the best Calcharo partner. So if you like this playstyle, just wait for her. And I'm done for today. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and also go check the GN guide I made yesterday. Bye bye.